of Season 1 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The show is rated TVY... I should have looked that up first. TVY7FV, and so will this video be. I really love this first season, and I'm just briefly going to say, usually I wait until the show has aired everything before I do a spoiler-free review at all. Recently I feel like we keep being told, oh, there's going to be more than one season, oh, there's not going to be more than one season. Not for this show, but for other shows, so I figured I'm just going to start doing... Yeah. If what I say in this video is in some way changed by season 2 or 3 or whatever, I might do... I'll likely do a video on that specific season and discuss there, but yes. So, I'm not sure I would say that the show is essential. It's not really canon with the rest of the MCU, even though it was originally supposed to be, and I think they made the right choice by just going off in a different direction. This could be the very first piece of Marvel media you take in at all. There's definitely certain stuff that would be, like, bordering on overpowering, but then, you know, each episode is under 30 minutes, so, you know, if you watch one episode and you're like, I need a break, take a break, you know, you'll be fine. There are multiple episodes that introduce a brand new character, often a very well-known face from the comics, not always. As such, obviously not all of them can get equal, like, amounts of screen time and development and such. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I read Spider-Man between, let's see, was it 99 and 2007. If we're being honest, there's definitely some characters in the comics that are really cool for just very brief appearances, and we really don't need to spend a lot of time on them, and that's something you can do in something like this. You know, in the movies, you're kind of stuck with, you know, yeah. And I do think that this uses the fact that it is a show very well. You know, all put together, I'd say it's roughly 4 hours of Spider-Man across 10 episodes. And because it is in these bite-sized chunks, that means that, you know, each episode is like an issue of a comic book. There will be various developments. You're guaranteed some action, and, you know, yeah, the ending will lead nicely into the next one. And yeah, you can take it more or less at your own pace, and they can develop characters more than you can in movies that also have, you know, there's certain expectations they have to have. You know, I'm not going to detail the formula, but if you've watched several of the recent ones, you can piece together. There's a very, you know, clear formula. Not that everyone's a suspect, but, you know, and this one, yeah, there's just, it's different for a TV show. And, you know, Spider-Man, like the X-Men, some of these comic IP, they just work really, really well, in some ways better, in a serialized format like this instead of movies. Yeah. You know, if you haven't already, if you're a fan of the X-Men, The Gifted, X-Men the Animated Series, and X-Men 97, I think, are some of the best X-Men we've gotten in recent years. Yeah, in, you know, animation or live action. I don't read the comics anymore, so I can't compare. Now, I think that does lead nicely into the... Given that this is for ages 7 and up, there are some things where they're holding back a little compared to a lot of other, you know, of these adaptations. I think it works, but for sure, again, you know, I already mentioned it's not really, you know, essential. If you really, really can't stand stuff that at least could be watched by children, you know, I don't blame you. And yeah, this one is definitely going to annoy you at times, you know. I'm not the biggest fan of stuff like, you know, yeah, but I do think this fares pretty well. You know, it's similar to like animated Disney and Pixar and stuff like that. There is stuff for us adults as well, you know, but it's not quite so like sugar high constantly as a lot of media for kids are. The animation, this definitely does take some inspiration from Spider-Verse. It does the thing of like, oh, let's put multiple frames, you know, comic frames into the frame of the show at the same time, you know. And yeah, it's about what you'd expect from something that isn't the first to do it and is perhaps not as passionate about doing it, is more like kind of chasing a trend. It's fine. I don't think there was ever a case where it was just like egregious. It's not constant, you know, not like, I'm not saying that it's constant in Spider-Verse either, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it feels quite as motivated as in Spider-Verse. The animation definitely does take some annoying shortcuts. I have never seen New York this empty. I actually, you know, I'm Danish, but I did spend 30 minutes in New York 20 years ago, and in those 30 minutes I saw more pedestrians and cars, and I wasn't even in a super populated area of New York, than in 4 hours of this show. Even though Spider-Man is swinging through New York, you know, yeah. You know, other than that, you know, others have pointed out the art. I'm afraid I forget exactly the name, but they're using the art of one of the classic Spider-Man, you know, from like way back decades ago, possibly even one from the 60s. You know, others have pointed out it looks great when it's still, doesn't look amazing in movement, you know, somewhat similar to Star Wars Rebels, you know. And that's right, the cell shaded element really bothers some people. I don't really see a problem with it. Now, let's see. Right, I have not watched, there's a lot of Spider-Man animated shows that I have not watched. I know I watched some of the original 60s one and some of the 90s one, and certainly, you know, obvious statement is obvious, the animation is better here than in the 60s. The 90s one is very 90s, you know, but yeah, I mean, if Disney tomorrow said, oh, we're bringing back the 90s show, I'd be like, I mean, you're not canceling season 2 of Your Friendly Neighborhood, though, right? Because I'm more excited. Which is kind of the opposite of, like, when I heard they were bringing back X-Men the Animated Series, I was not like, I don't know, are you sure about... No, I was like, thank you, you know, finally, Santa got my letter. Now, let's see, the, one thing I will say about the animation, they do really bring it where it matters. The action looks amazing. They do the shortcut thing, you know, sometimes, you know, something will go flying through the air and it's like, should that area, would that area not likely have more, like, pedestrians or cars or something? But it is dynamic, it is visually, like, it really gets to you. Yeah, visually dynamic, I think is what I was trying to say there, yeah. And the, what's the other thing with that? Yeah, they bring in some really, you know, cool characters with powers that, you know, we want to see Spider-Man fight, and they make good use of the fact that they fight in very different ways. You know, this doesn't boil down to, oh, you know, two people punching each other in the face. You know, they're swinging around, and the enemies some of them have short-range weaponry that prevent Spider-Man from getting close. Some of them have long-range weaponry that he has to contend with. Some of them attack civilians that he then protects. Various things. And let's see. I think that might more or less... Yeah, I think these 10 episodes do a good job of... there's multiple characters, major characters, that end up in a very different place from where they started out over the course of the season, and yeah, they really do nail, there's characters where you kind of get a feeling like, wait, is that, I read the comics, is that person gonna do this? And, maybe they won't right away, but maybe there'll be little hints that, yeah, eventually it'll... And it works for people who don't know anything about these characters, because at first they don't know exactly what's a thing, and then they might pick up the hints. There are some good messages along the way, and they're communicated well. I don't really know why the actor... I'm not going to spend forever on it, because he's already gotten a lot of negative attention for it, but... Hudson Thames, who plays Peter Parker in this, very well, by the way, apparently said in an interview that he was worried the show would be annoying and woke, but was relieved that it wasn't. He uses the word woke. I do not think it means what he thinks it means. If this show isn't woke, I don't think anything is. Yeah, it's a show that acknowledges diversity as our strength. There are characters who in the comic are straight white dudes, which is kind of boring. And here, some of them are now African American, some of them are women, helping communicate that there's, the world doesn't revolve around us white dudes, which, it is something that is deeply upsetting to the bigots, but that is not the only reason that I love it.